What if the most advanced fighter jet of our time was actually built in 1990 and then buried? Back then, the world watched as two radical prototypes faced off. Lockheed's YF-22, sharp, aggressive, and designed to dominate close combat, and Northrop's YF-23, eerily silent, almost alien, and built for one mission: to strike first and vanish without a trace. The Air Force picked a winner, but what they passed over may have been decades ahead of its time. Today, sixth-generation fighters are starting to emerge, and they look uncannily familiar. Hidden nozzles, blended wings, no vertical tail. Everything the YF-23 pioneered is finally being called the future. But how did a rejected stealth fighter go from forgotten prototype to the secret blueprint behind the world's most advanced warplanes? That's what we're about to uncover. In 1990, Northrop rolled out something that didn't look like it belonged on Earth. The YF-23, nicknamed the Black Widow II and the Gray Ghost, wasn't just another prototype. It was quiet, sleek, and unsettling. Pilots who flew it said it felt like flying a shadow. It didn't growl or roar like traditional fighters. It whispered. Its diamond-shaped wings, blended fuselage, and butterfly-like tail gave it a silhouette that radar systems couldn't easily recognize, and most humans couldn't forget. Even its engine exhaust was hidden from view, cooled and flattened to avoid infrared detection. Some engineers called it a bomber disguised as a fighter. Others thought it looked too radical to be real. But one thing was clear. It wasn't built for dogfights. It was built to sneak in, strike fast, and disappear before anyone knew it was there. And while its competitor, the YF-22, looked aggressive and agile, the YF-23 felt like a machine that belonged in the next century. But that futuristic look wasn't just for show. It had a purpose. A purpose that, back then, no one seemed ready for. The YF-23 didn't just hide from radar. It outran detection entirely. While most jets needed afterburners to break the sound barrier, the YF-23 could cruise above Mach 1.5 without them. That meant no glowing exhaust trail, no ear-splitting roar, just silent speed through contested airspace. Its engines, tucked deep into the body, used a special trough lined with heat-absorbing tiles made from a material called lamaloy. These weren't just high-tech tiles. They were part of a thermal camouflage system that cooled the engine exhaust as it left the plane. Less heat meant less visibility to heat-seeking missiles and infrared sensors. And here's the part that still stuns people. Despite all the stealth compromises other jets had to make, the YF-23 didn't lose performance. In fact, it was faster and quieter than its rival, the YF-22. It had a cleaner radar signature, longer supersonic range, and a more mature overall design, all without thrust vectoring or flashy maneuvers. But instead of chasing tight turns and airshow theatrics, the YF-23 followed a different philosophy. See first, shoot first, vanish. It didn't want to fight a dogfight. It wanted to end one before the enemy even realized they were being targeted. So why didn't the military go with a more advanced aircraft? The answer lies in a mix of politics, fear, and a decision that still sparks debate to this day. On paper, the YF-23 checked every box. It was stealthier. It was faster. It had better range. It even looked like something designed by the future. And yet it lost. In 1991, the U.S. Air Force officially chose the Lockheed YF-22 to become what we now know as the F-22 Raptor. The reason? On the surface, it came down to maneuverability. The YF-22 was more agile at low speeds and could pull off tighter turns in close combat. For some military leaders, that was the deal breaker. But according to many insiders, that's only part of the story. Behind closed doors, there were whispers of a different calculus, one that had more to do with politics than performance. Lockheed had stronger relationships in Washington. Northrop, still recovering from budget overruns and public scrutiny over the B-2 Spirit, wasn't in the best position to sell a bold, unconventional design. Some say decision-makers were simply scared of betting on a jet that looked so radical. And then there's the defense industry pipeline. Choosing Lockheed meant aligning with a massive production network and logistical chain already favored by key players in the Pentagon. The YF-22 felt safer, familiar, easier to explain. But here's the irony. The jet they rejected was quietly laying the groundwork for what sixth-generation fighters would eventually become. Because decades later, that ghostly design would start to reappear. And this time, the world was finally ready. For years, the YF-23 sat in museums, a what-could-have-been story collecting dust. Then, out of nowhere, it started showing up again, just not by name. In concept art released by Boeing for the U.S. Air Force's Next Generation Air Dominance Program, NGD, a new jet appeared, the F-47, a sleek, tailless, deeply recessed aircraft with wide, blended wings, exotic intakes, and no vertical stabilizers. Sound familiar? To anyone who had seen the YF-23 up close, the resemblance wasn't subtle. The same ghost-like silhouette, the same airframe philosophy, the same commitment to thermal camouflage and stealth shaping, only now paired with modern tools like AI copilots, adaptive engines, and drone swarm control. Even Darrell B. Cummings, one of the original YF-23 engineers and a pioneer in stealth aircraft development, saw it instantly. In an interview with Aviation Week, he said, "It definitely has elements of the YF-23. I'm not surprised at all. This is the direction things have been heading for a long time." It wasn't just a nod to a past design. It was a revival of a concept that had been 30 years early. The Gray Ghost hadn't been forgotten. It had evolved. And while the public only got teaser images of the F-47, insiders say its internal systems go even further, blending data from satellites, drones, and ground systems into a single awareness loop. Total battlefield dominance, without ever being seen. But this stealth revolution didn't stop with fighters. Another YF-23 descendant was about to take to the skies, and this one was built to deliver payloads in silence. If the F-47 borrowed the YF-23's silhouette, the B-21 Raider stole its soul. Developed by Northrop Grumman, the same company behind the YF-23, the B-21 Raider is the United States' next-generation stealth bomber. And while most headlines call it the successor to the B-2 Spirit, many insiders say it actually traces its design roots back to the fighter that never made it past the prototype stage. Just like the YF-23, the B-21 hides everything that makes it lethal. Its engines, fully recessed into the fuselage, with air intakes that block line of sight to the turbine blades, the same trick used on the YF-23 to avoid radar detection. Its exhaust, completely masked, using techniques refined from the YF-23's lamella line troughs, now upgraded with next-gen cooling tech. Even its skin, smooth, featureless, geometrically clean, echoes the same radar scattering angles Northrop pioneered on the Gray Ghost. But here's what's even more remarkable. The B-21 wasn't just inspired by the YF-23's shape. It was inspired by its mindset, digital design, modular systems, low maintenance, high survivability. These weren't afterthoughts, they were baked in from day one, using virtual simulations and AI-assisted development. Exactly the kind of future-proofing the YF-23 team once dreamed of, but couldn't fully realize with 1990s tech. Now, 30 years later, those same ideas aren't radical, they're required. And the B-21 is proof that the design logic behind the YF-23 wasn't just ahead of its time. It was the time, just waiting to catch up. But this legacy isn't staying within U.S. borders. Across the globe, allied nations are following the same blueprint, and they're building something eerily familiar. It's not just the U.S. that's reaching back into the past to shape the future. Thousands of miles away, a new fighter is taking form, and once again, the YF-23 is casting its long shadow. Enter the Global Combat Air Program, or GCAP, a joint effort by the United Kingdom, Japan, and Italy to build a sixth-generation fighter by the mid-2030s. And the design language? Instantly recognizable. Tailless, seamless, sleek. Recent GCAP concept renders show a fighter with blended wing body design, buried engines, smooth edges, and no vertical stabilizers. All trademarks of the YF-23. But the resemblance goes deeper than skin. GCAP is being built around the same central principle the YF-23 was mocked for in the early 90s. Don't fight the war. End it before it begins. The fighter is designed for network warfare, not solo duels. It'll be synced with drone swarms, AI reconnaissance, and real-time battle management. The cockpit will be digital, possibly semi-autonomous, built not for Top Gun-style maneuvers, but for strategic dominance. Sound familiar? These weren't dreams in 1990. They were blueprints. The YF-23 team envisioned this exact future, but the world wasn't ready. Now, with AI-driven controls, sensor fusion, and cyber-enhanced warfare becoming the norm, that vision is no longer ahead of its time. It is time. GCAP, NGAD, B-21, they all share one thing, a philosophy born from the fighter that never was. And yet, in the most ironic twist of all, the YF-23 didn't need to fly into battle to win. Its ideas did. Fast forward to today, and the future of air dominance is once again stuck in a familiar fight. But this time, it's not about which aircraft is better. It's about who gets to build it, how much it costs, and which branch gets the final say. On one side, you've got the Air Force, backing the F-47, the sleek, stealthy successor shaped by decades of YF-23 DNA. On the other, the Navy, pushing for its own version of a 6th-gen fighter under the F/EXX program. Both want funding. Both claim theirs is the future. And Congress, they're caught in the middle. At a recent hearing, Admiral Daryl Caudle issued a blunt warning. If we delay this any further, we'll be flying yesterday's jets into tomorrow's war. It's a chilling echo of 1991, when the YF-23 was shelved for something that felt safer, and when innovation lost to politics. Meanwhile, the cost of 6th-gen development is skyrocketing. NGAD alone is projected to exceed $300 billion, with only a handful of aircraft expected to be built. The pressure is on to make the right call, this time. And here's where the irony hits hardest. The stealth tech, digital backbone, thermal shaping, and AI integration everyone's now fighting over. All of it was quietly proven on a prototype from 30 years ago. A jet that never saw combat, but somehow won the war for the future. So, where does that leave the YF-23? Not as a failed fighter, but as the blueprint that everyone's racing to claim. In the end, the YF-23 didn't need to win the contract, because it already won the future. It never entered production. It never flew a mission. It never dropped a bomb or fired a missile in combat. And yet, its influence is everywhere, from the F-47 and B-21 Raider to international programs like GCAP. The fingerprints of the YF-23 are etched into every cutting-edge warplane being built today. Smooth silhouettes, hidden heat signatures, no tails, no noise, just lethal precision cloaked in silence. What was once seen as too radical is now standard practice. What was dismissed as a risky gamble is now the baseline for survival in 21st century air combat. And that's the true legacy of the YF-23, not as a machine, but as a mindset. A mindset that said, don't follow the rules of air superiority, rewrite them. 30 years ago, Northrop engineers stared down the limits of technology and imagined what war would look like when visibility meant death and silence was victory. Today, their vision is finally being realized, not by one plane, but by an entire generation of them. So, while the YF-23 was never mass-produced, its shadow looms larger than ever, and every jet designed never to be seen. And that brings us to you. Which feature of the YF-23 do you think shaped the future the most? Its heat-hiding design, its tailless frame, or its philosophy of first look, first kill? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this deep dive into forgotten aviation history, hit that like button, subscribe for more high-tech breakdowns, and tap the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the most dangerous weapon is the one you never saw coming.